These are tools that I've learned to take the place of that emotional eating, that I don't have to use that food.
Something that we talk about sometimes in the program too is like in traditional ways of dieting, you're trying to avoid a binge or you're trying to avoid um having a treat, or right, like you're it's like, and if you do those things you're a failure. But in this program, we we almost, I don't want to say celebrate it because it's still a bummer when those things happen. It's
Mhm.
not what you want and it's okay to be disappointed. But also it's more like, okay, all right, well, what can you learn from that? You
It's just
know,
data.
yeah, it's just data. Yep. You guys are catching me on my catchphrases. It's
And
all
you know
data.
what? I would have never, ever felt that way before. And I've been on a lot of diets, like you're saying, where, certain foods are a no no. And then when you eat them, there's such guilt and anxiety.
Yeah.
And if you're eating for emotional reasons, when you increase that anxiety, it's, by saying no, it just, then what are you going to do? You're going to eat more.
And feel
This is a,
bad about it.
yeah, these are tools that I've learned to take the place of that emotional eating, that I don't have to use that food. I love when you say developing a curiosity about why you're doing something, because now all of a sudden I'm realizing, hey, wait a minute, I want candy or ice cream or I want to go to McDonald's. And I stop and say, wait a minute, what's really happening here? Now, if I really did want to go, I could go and I could enjoy it and it would be fine. And I wouldn't need to eat everything that's not nailed down when I get home. But, usually it's because there's something bothering me.
Mhm.
So I've been able to learn to have that stop and curiosity.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that kind of bleeds into my next question, which is what did you do to make that change happen? And it sounds like for you, just creating some space to reflect on or question why you're feeling a certain way, or, what tools you could use in the moment has been part of that.
Yeah, a huge part. And I think um, working the program, you know, um, reading the modules and learning the information, and then going back and maybe looking at it again. Because when you're first absorbing it, you might feel overwhelmed,
Yep.
and that's okay. Then, as you go back and life happens, like the soften, soothe, allow,
Mhm.
something will happen. You'll say, wait a minute, there's a tool that I could use instead of eating. So it's an ongoing process, and I think it's a lifelong process. But the time that I spend, it doesn't rule my day. But the tools that I've gained and learned really have changed my days.
Mm.
And the times that I'm spending on it is well worth it.
Mm.
Well worth it.
Yeah, I something I've noticed in watching people move through the program is when they go through the first few modules, um, they still have that lens or that point of view of diet. And people even come to me and say, this is starting to feel like a diet again. I'm starting to think about it like it's a diet. I, was thinking to myself, I shouldn't eat that much later because I'm on a diet, but I know that's not what this is about, help me. And then we kind of talk about it. And it's so interesting to me because then sometimes people will go back through and say, wow, it hit me completely differently now that I have this just completely different relationship to food or point of view of eating. And yeah, that struck me with what you were saying.
Yeah, that is so very true. So very true. It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sentence is on its own a point of view, right? That's different from dieting in the sense that in dieting, yeah, you know it's a process, but you're just waiting for that end result. And you want to be at that end result, the weight loss you want to achieve. And you're not really focused on the things that happen to get you there or enjoying it, or most of the time, not enjoying it at all. Um, and yet in this process you get to discover more about who you are and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, which sometimes is just as powerful.
You
um
know, I've been on diets where I have lost all the weight that I wanted to lose, very restrictive diets. And then I would get there and think, okay, now what? And boomerang right back because I didn't have those tools that you are talking about.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and in the process, that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's where you
And
do all the learning.
we've done it, there's so much more besides just the modules too. You do so much more with different speakers, and I've learned so many things. And it's not just about the food.
Mhm,
It's about who you are, how you're feeling about yourself. And for a lot of us, it's about aging and who we are and learning to like ourselves at this stage of life.